Turning our focus to the treatment of trauma following October 7th, as the war continues more than 17 months since the darkest day in the history of the country, we take a deeper look at efforts to establish a national authority for post-trauma treatment, a central body to coordinate the fight against the growing challenges. And for that, we now welcome Gela Tolub, who arrived in Israel before the war started and found herself at the heart of the national crisis. Welcome, the co-founder and executive director of ICAR Collective. Thank you so much for being here. The nation is still processing the magnitude of what happened on October 7th, the scale of it, the depravity, the brutality, and right now, so much pain still. Talk to us about your initial assessment, your reaction to October 7th.
Sure. So I think, like you say, October 7th really caught us in a place that no developed market have seen before. Nothing of that scale that touches the entire, country. And trauma is actually a pretty recent field of studies. We've only been studying trauma for, 40 years since the Vietnam War, and collective trauma much less. And so one of the first things we realized at the beginning of the war is that we're in uncharted water. We don't really have protocols that tell us, if this happens, you should do this, you should do that. And most people realize this quickly, the scale of it, the existential threat that really all of us have felt, but also the fact that it continues. It continues and it continues. It's not like we were in a car accident and now we can start to process what happened, create a new narrative of how we're going to now continue to live our life because we're still in it.
The fact that it is ongoing is part of the trauma, and so much still to make sense of, so much still to process. What are the gaps that you have picked up in this time? Where is Israel lacking, so to speak, in terms of dealing with trauma and working towards healing?
Right. So a few things are clear. Besides for this lack of protocols, which is not, by the way, special to Israel because it's a global issue, what we see in Israel is a fragmentation that is, really acute. So it's not only the HMOs, the Kupot Cholim that are providing care, it's also the government hospitals that are owned by the government, the mental health hospital, and it's also a lot of NGOs, a lot of nonprofit entities. And one of the first things that we did at ICAR Collective is to actually map who's doing what. We've identified more than 335 projects. 230 accounted for 90% of the turnover, so we looked at those in more details. We spoke with more than 120 to really understand who's doing what. And that fragmentation makes it really hard for a lot of reasons. One, for continuity of care. Someone can start somewhere, continue somewhere, can actually go to two different places and get treatment, so it creates inefficiencies. But also, right now, when you have a lot of philanthropists that want to help, public funders, they don't know exactly where we need the most support. And so that's also where we come in with our scientific advisory board that say, what are those areas where we could actually accelerate the healing? What can we do differently to recover more quickly?
And briefly, where do people go? People who want to get involved, want to get help, who should they turn to?
So that's actually a really hard question in Israel. Because of this fragmentation, the answer is, are they civilian or are they soldiers? If they're soldiers, are they reservists or are they still Sadir in the first 3 years? That's one of the things that we find very hard in terms of psychoeducation. Instead of telling people where they should go, we're working now into making some more order in that situation.
A long road ahead, but certainly a nation that is resilient and a nation that is unified. Appreciate you being here. Gela Tolub, all the best with your initiative. Thank you so much.